Hi everyone! I've finally gotten around to doing the creator playthrough, as I've been saying I'll do for a while. I am Seraphinite, the one who made the lady's choice. There isn't a team of people behind Seraphinite, it is just me. This is my first time doing anything like this, so I hope you'll be gentle with me. I also understand that I don't have the best reading voice, and I also talk incredibly fast at times, so I'll do my best to make it understandable for you all. I will only be doing the prologue in this episode, but in all episodes I will be giving behind the scenes information where I can give information such as characters, designs, story points, etc., things like that. After this episode I will be doing Stanton's route first, because he is my favourite, and after that I'll do Blake's, then possibly a hint of what's upcoming in Ainsworth's route. For those who haven't seen or are interested, I will be adding an Ainsworth's route, hopefully sometime in December 2016. I think that's it for announcements, so let's just get into it, I think. My aunt once told me a lack of good society will drive the wits from any decent person. I smiled to myself, unsure if I have instead lost my wits for agreeing to return to a society. But I could not avoid it for much longer, Arabella's pleas growing too incessant to ignore. And, as she has always been my closest friend, I just did not have the heart to deny her wishes. It has been many years since I last came to Bath, instead having kept to my own company at my family's estate. Now, I know Bath didn't have a season, but I am quite familiar with Bath, which is why I set it there. In general, this visual novel is not historically accurate. It is bits and pieces are historically accurate, but most of the time I just wanted to make it fun and have a very Regency feel to it, but update it for a more modern audience. Last time I was in society, it was, let's go for a disaster. It was a disaster I would rather not relive. Being so young, I did not understand a gentleman's intentions, and had unwittingly gotten myself entangled to him. When Arabella had congratulated me on the match, I'd realised my mistake straight away. I dealt with it by, explaining how my few merits weren't going to be to his taste. The next time we met, I explained how my few merits would be unlikely to make attractive qualities in a wife. He understood my rejection, though took it well due to the light manner I gave it in. Though I dealt with it as best I could, the whole affair still managed to spread throughout town. I barely had chance to walk down the street without hearing the whispers and gossips of those I passed. Arabella had remained by my side throughout, always so loyal in her friendship. With a gentle sigh, I clasped the handkerchief in my hand tighter, running my thumb over my name, which my mother had embellished onto it with such delicate needlework. We'll go for the generic name, because that's best, which is Sophia Ingham. You fret unnecessarily, Sophia. Arabella lays a hand on my arm, and I shift my gaze to her, smiling softly. I believe you will enjoy returning far more than you suppose. Her smile turns to one of mischief. And society will enjoy your company far more than it may remember. Let us hope so. The road gradually smooths, announcing our arrival into town from the country roads. Oh, not far until we reach the house. I expect Lord Ingham's servants were surprised by the announcement of your staying in Bath. It has been a long time since my father sent word to the townhouse staff. Let's go for that one again. They are probably most annoyed at our intrusion. I gave a long smile. I'm sure they are most annoyed at our sudden intrusion into their privacy. Arabella gives a gentle laugh. I believe you may be right. It has been such a long while since anyone from your family has left the country estate. I imagine talk of your return is the main topic of conversation. I can't help but stiffen at the thought. Arabella leans to look out of the window, a smile lighting her face. Ah, here we are. I stare at the house, the last time I laid eyes on it being so long ago. It has changed little. Shall we go in, Sophia? I cannot very well proceed before you into your own house. Here I will talk about the clothing designs. The clothing designs, particularly Arabella's, were based on pictures I found on the internet of Regency clothing. The hat was quite interesting, but I imagined Arabella would always be quite interesting in her fashion choices, so that's why I gave her that hat. And obviously I had to give the main character a rather fabulous hat because, well, I like fabulous hats. She gives a chuckle and I smile in return, before eventually making my way inside. As soon as we step inside, a somewhat familiar face steps into the foyer to greet us. Welcome home, Missingham. Johnson, our butler, has aged considerably since I last saw him. The once stout brunette man now turned into a slightly hunched gentleman with far more wrinkles and hair. When you get 4 choices, that is the personality choices, and I have usually kept them in the same order. So the first one is genial, the second is headstrong, the third is witty, and the fourth is sensible. So we'll go with witty. I surely did not recognise you for a moment, Johnson. I glanced over him again and raised my brows. I surely did not recognise you for a moment, Johnson. It really has been too long. He gives a half smile and nods in agreement. And this must be Miss Highsmith. It is Lady Ashbourne now. His brows curve in surprise. I quite forgot about your marriage. I apologise, Lady Ashbourne. She waves away his apology. Do not turn so stuffy, Johnson. I am still the same girl as I always was, if somewhat more grown now. As I can see, he states with a wry smile. You are not staying with Lord Ashbourne? He passed away the year before last. I'll put a comforting hand on hers. When her voice trembles, I reach out to rest my hand on hers. I offer a small smile and her pain dissipates, if only a little. You will wish to attend to your rooms before tea? Yes, thank you. He gives a small nod and we begin to shrug out of our coats and hats. After settling ourselves and luggage into our rooms, we meet again for tea in the drawing room. I hope tonight's ball will be busy. A ball already? You really have forgotten society, haven't you? The ball tonight will open the season. She takes a sip of tea, staring at me over the brim of her teacup. Everyone will be in attendance. Including us? Including us. Her lips curl into a secretive smile, and I frown slightly in curiosity. Why are you smiling so, Arabella? The question was obviously just the prompt she needed. She places down her cup so excitedly it rattles against the saucer. I believe I may soon be engaged. Engaged? My family have been in talks with another about a suitable partner. Is this why you are so insistent I join you this year? I did not want to enter into all of this alone, I admit, and you were there for me in my last marriage, even when no one else was. Your advice in this is the only one I would care for. I understand. Arabella, for a little bit of background information, is the best friend character. Mostly she is there to help progress along the story of the main character. That's generally the point of best friends in stories, but I did want her to feel very real and have her own motivations and her own character. So much so, in fact, I tended to end up enjoy writing her side stories more than the main characters at times. But I'm hoping I got that feeling across of her being there for the main character and mostly there to help her, but she had her own story as well. So, who is he? She shifts back in the seat, picking up her cup once again. I cannot tell you yet, as much as I may wish. I do not want to talk of it without more certainty of the situation. So it is not settled? She shakes her head, then gives a small smile. But I have hopes it soon will be. I take a gulp of tea, unsure how to respond. Not once had Arabella seemed keen on remarrying, having inherited both title and wealth from her former husband. I glance at her, studying the smile on her face. It seems genuine. I did not know you were in the market for someone new. You do not need a husband to secure your place in society any longer, Arabella. Of course I do not need a husband, but that does not mean I do not wish for someone to share my life with. I give a nod of understanding. Maybe you will also meet someone of your liking tonight, Sophia. Society has changed since the last time you were here. I look at her unsurely, my nerves already on edge about tonight's ball. That evening we arrive at the already bustling assembly rooms for the opening ball of the season. Oh, how wonderful, so many here already. I nod in agreement. There certainly are so many. The assembly rooms are large, but seem positively tiny when packed with so many people. The heat is stifling, and I do my best to stand in the way of the doors, hoping for the coolness of a draught. There is Lady Steer. Arabella points through the crowd, but I cannot pick one person out from the mass. I must ask how she's been. I shall return in but a moment. Before I can protest, she is swallowed up by the crowd, and I am left standing alone at the edge of the room. Excuse me? I turn around to see a young woman smiling at me. I realise we have not yet been introduced, but I saw you speaking to Lady Ashbourne, and I simply had to know you. I am Miss Claire Witter. She bows a small curtsy. Ooh. I think I'll make her rather bold. That is quite a bold introduction, Miss Whitter, and I am pleased for it. I drop into a small curtsy myself. I am Miss Sophia Ingham. You are Miss Ingham? My mother has spoken of your return. Have you truly not been to town in so long? I start a little at the abruptness of her question. Miss Whitter obviously a lot younger than her looks would suggest. It has been quite some time, yes. Then you must be simply desperate for enjoyment. How dull it must have been in the country. I barely have time to open my mouth to respond before she speaks again. Come, we must dance. I have a partner waiting for me, but we shall find you someone too. She takes my hand and tugs me to one side. Oh, Mr. Ainsbury? I glance up to search out the person she has called. Mr. Ainsbury! She raises her voice to be heard over the din of people. I finally manage to free my fingers from her excited grasp. Can I help you, Miss Whitter? A rather jovial voice asks from the sea of people. I glance up to meet eyes with a handsome, youthful face framed by thick locks of blonde curls. Lawrence, this is Miss Sophia Ingham, and she is without a partner for this dance. I can't help my cheeks heating at the forward nature of the young woman. I apologise. I would be most happy to rectify the situation, Miss Ingham. Before I can speak my apology, Mr. Ainsbury holds out a hand towards me. Of course we're going to dance. Thank you, Mr. Ainsbury. He gives a wide smile as I place my hand gently into his, and we make our way towards where the other partners are lining up for the dance. When the music begins, the line of ladies take a wide step forward, the men then doing the same to meet in the middle. I take Mr. Ainsbury's hand again, and we walk in unison down the middle of the room. You should not be offended by Miss Whitter's forward manners, Miss Ingham. Her parents have rather indulged her, and she has little worry of upsetting the rules. So I could tell. If only more were of her disposition, wouldn't you agree? We part for a moment, taking a turn about another set of partners before meeting once again. The personality choices have no real effect on the route of romance, but there are certain personalities that work better with each love interest. I smile in response to his statement. I welcome introduction to anyone willing to do as they wish, despite the rules, an idea not readily shared by most. We step closer together, but one at least you can be sure I agree with. We part and change partners for a few beats. When we return, he takes my hand and leads me around the outside of the floor around the other partners. I hear you have been out of society for quite some time. I give a small nod. Then we are in similar situations, as I too have not been required to return to town for a few years. And yet you return now? I have had little choice. His frown turns to a joking smile. You know how family can be about securing their lineage. I smile in understanding. Actually, I have been most lucky in that my family have never pushed me to pursue marriage. This will be the non-historically accurate parts. We jaw together once more, the music fading slowly. Then consider yourself incredibly fortunate, Miss Ingham. He offers a smile before bending at the waist in a low bow. It has been a pleasure. And with that, he lets my hand drop before disappearing into the crowds. Thankfully, I am not left alone long, as Arabella finds me soon after. Sophia, you must make haste and come this way. What has happened? Some military officers are being stationed in Bath for a few days and have come for introductions tonight. They are simply so dashing I almost fainted where I stood. And what of your betrothed? He is not my betrothed yet. I would have blushed from her words had I not grown used to them years ago. She leads me to one side of the room, where a swathe of young women have taken up. Arabella pays them little mind as she squeezes through them with a practised elegance. Finally we come to a stop before a tall, uniformed man. It is hard not to find the sight rather pleasing. When my sister first played through the Lady's Choice Prologue for me to check out the spelling and things like this, her first reaction to Foxley was, why can't I romance him? So I figured I was off to a good start with the characters. Colonel Foxley? At the sound of her voice, the man's face lights into a bright smile. Lady Ashbourne, I would be most pleased to introduce you to my closest friend, Miss Sophia Ingham. He dips into a bow, and I drop into a small curtsy. It is most delightful to meet you, Lady Ash. Please, Colonel, Arabella will do just fine. But Lady Ashbourne? It is only a name, Colonel. The Colonel clears his throat before continuing with what he was saying. Colonel Foxley is Colonel Ernest Foxley, but when I originally came up with the character, he was possibly going to be called Busick Foxley, but I'm figuring Ernest was probably a better name. The Colonel clears his throat before continuing with what he was saying. Arabella has been most kind in helping us find our way around. I am certain it is a task she will take very much to heart. The music ends on the next dance, and Arabella suddenly brightens. Oh, Colonel, did you not promise me the next dance? Indeed I did. Arabella moves forward to slip her arm into his. But what of Miss Ingham? Oh, please do not miss on the dance on account of me. I am most happy to observe. I would not dream of such. He turns around and scans the room, before smiling and tapping another uniformed man on the shoulder. The man steps closer towards us, his stiff posture and countenance enough to make me uneasy myself. Miss Ingham, may I present Captain Guy Blake as a suitable enough partner for this dance? Foxley, this is not... Ah, come now, Guy, you cannot be upset by the partner, can you? Captain Blake turns his gaze away uneasily. It is not a question of that. And, of course, Sophia will have no upset in taking on such a fine officer. Without saying a word more, the two moved to the dance floor. If you would care to, Miss Ingham, I would reserve this dance for you. His words and manner are both unsettled, his gaze shifting away momentarily to check on Colonel Foxley. Obviously we'll dance again. I would very much enjoy that. Thank you, Captain. He seems almost surprised by my acceptance, before giving a genuine smile. He offers his arm, and I slip my hand around it as he leads me towards the floor. As we stand together, shoulder to shoulder, ready for the music, I notice a tension straining his posture. You do not dance often, Captain. He glances at me as we step off into the dance. It is not a familiar pastime, I confess. I cannot help but smile at his uncertainty as we pass the other partners. I would not have guessed he did not dance often. His steps, though stiff, are precise and performed with a strange, efficient kind of elegance. We split apart to perform a small jig before moving back together. You are a very proficient dancer, Miss Ingham. I believe he is trying to pay me a compliment. I'm going to choose a third one because it was one of the most favourite responses to write. As are you, Captain, also very proficient. You are mocking me, Miss Ingham. Only a very little, Captain, I assure you. His tension eases a little, his stiff features curving into a genuine smile. When the dance is over, the Captain leads me to the side of the room, where it is a little quieter. As we stand together, I notice a slight disdain on his face as he looks over the crowd. Are you looking for someone particularly dislikable? He is obviously surprised by my question, and turns his attention to me. You must be used to such crowds. His lip curls into a half sneer. I shall never grow used to these people. These people? He shifts on the spot. Please excuse my outburst. I am not accustomed to being in this society. Oh. Unsure of his meaning, and a little hesitant to ask more on it, I simply let the conversation dwindle. But it has been most enjoyable in your company. Please do not take offence. Of course not. Before we can say any more, Arabella and the Colonel join us. A refreshing change to see you take a partner, Guy. It was a most needed distraction. Thank you, Miss Ingham. I agree. I curtsy at him as he bows, and they both move through the crowd to join their fellow officers. I most regret not bringing a fan, for I suddenly feel quite flushed. Arabella! I cannot help how my body reacts to such a man, Sophia. I do not believe any woman could. We laugh quietly before I notice the crowds around us have parted. Oh, it is Lady Thomasina Huntington. Who is Lady Huntington? Really, Sophia, have you not had no interest in society in all these years? Never mind. Before Arabella has a chance to inform me of why the woman approaching us has caused the crowds to tremble like scared mice, Lady Huntington steps before us. We drop into short curtsies, though the woman does not return one. Lady Huntington was surprisingly popular for some people, which was quite a nice surprise. I know that Amelia O did want to know more about Mama Huntington, as she called her. For a start, I think she would silently boil with rage at that title, but I will be going more into her character in Blake's route, where she features the most heavily. Lady Ashbourne, this is your good friend, I assume? Yes, Lady Huntington. May I present Miss Sophia Ingham? The woman glances over me with a close glare, one I can only believe has been mastered over inspecting many a young woman. When finished, she snaps her fan shut and gives a small nod of satisfaction. You have been out of good society for long, Miss Ingham. You must be thankful your parents let you return. Though she did not speak it as a question, I still cannot stifle the urge to make a reply. When you get three choices, it's usually a choice of how to deal with society, so you'll get society points on it. Again, I usually put them in the same order. So the first... what's the first one? The first one is shunning society. The second one is accepting society, and the third one is making a mistake in society. So it'll make her quite bold. I adopt as much of her strange smile as I can. In fact, Lady Huntington, I was not in society of my own choosing. My parents have allowed me to make my own decisions, one of them being my choice to return to town or not over the years. The woman's brows shoot up so far I fear they may disappear into her hairline. I can see they have certainly allowed you many freedoms. She shifts a little closer, and I do my best to hold my ground against her imposing presence. But I shall give you a modicum of advice. Such freedoms are not valued highly by the refined classes of town. Such an open nature is not wanted by prospective husbands. She passes her narrowed gaze over me once again, which I do believe shall be waning in number already due to your many years of experience over the other ladies. She gives a sharp curtsy. Good evening, Lady Ashbourne, Missingham. Enjoy the ball. And with those words and her insult to my age, she sweeps away into the crowds. Are you quite all right, Sophia? I give a small nod, which does not completely deter Arabella's concerns, but is enough to calm her a little. Lady Huntington is a gatekeeper which all in society must please to secure a good future. I was negligent not to warn you of her. Her sour expression was the only beacon of warning I needed. Arabella gives a small laugh, her worry vanishing. Did the Colonel not ask for the next dance with you, Arabella? Oh, I almost quite forgot. Almost forgot? Well, I could never altogether forget any invitation from that man. I shake my head slightly at her words. But what of you? Go and enjoy the company of your officer, Arabella. She doesn't need much more convincing than that, before giving a broad smile and setting off to find her uniformed partner. As the partners begin to move to the dance floor, I shuffle to one side out of the way, only to bang right into someone beside me. Oh, I apologise. I glance up quite a way to meet eyes with a tall, well-held gentleman. I believe I should be the one to make such an apology, miss. He glances to the side and then returns his gaze to me. How about I make up such a calamity on my part with a dance? He offers his hand towards me. I can assure you I'm not anywhere near as clumsy when on the dance floor. But we are not yet introduced. You and I know that fact, but I believe the rest of the room does not. He offers his hand again. Would you care to take chance on such a scandal? His teasing makes me hesitate. Obviously I'm going to dance because he is my favourite. I push down my uncertainty and place my hand into his. His handsome face brightens into a wide smile as he leads me to the floor, where we stand opposite each other and await the music. Standing in line with the other women, I cannot help but notice the narrowed glares and curious whispers that pass amongst the crowd, all thrown in the direction of my unknown dance partner. I am most glad you decided to take such a risk. I do not usually get to dance much anymore. Has that anything to do with the way everyone glances at you? His brows arch, obviously surprised at my bold question. You are quite astute. He takes my hand, and I walk beneath his arm, before we turn to face each other. I will speak plainly then. We spin around another couple before joining together again. I did not introduce myself to you, as I could tell you obviously did not know of me, and it is a rare and precious thing to enjoy not being judged before even being acquainted. I will go for the first one. I should not have presumed to judge you without first meeting you, no matter what I may have been told already. What a delightful perspective you have, though I do not believe it is in the nature of anyone not to judge when told of such follies. So whatever the rumours may be, they are true. He doesn't reply to my question, only gives a smile. The music begins to fade, and we draw together at the end of the dance. He politely leads me to the crowds at the side of the room and gives a deep bow. It has been a most pleasant time, and all without introductions. I confess that made it all the sweeter. Please excuse me. I made the dance scenes quite short in this because it was literally just to give you a taste of each guy so as you could make up your mind which route you wanted to go on. With a final nod of his head, he moves away and I watch as his broad frame disappears into the crowds. Sophia, what could have possessed you to dance with him? I spin around in shock of Arabella's outburst. What on earth do you mean? Lord Stanton, of course. Who is... You were not even introduced? I clasp her hands, trying to calm down her hysterics as I fear she may faint from shock. You truly danced with such a man without knowing him? I am sure there have been worse things done, Arabella. You would not say such things if you knew of him. She sidles closer to whisper to me. That is Viscount Stanton of Braxbury, Lord Isaac Stanton. She turns to gauge my expression, and seeing no sign of recognition, she continues. His family's name was once well respected, until his father took up an affair within a local gambling house, and it will appear that passion runs in the family. There is apparently no fortune left. His present presence at these events is purely due to his lineage, nothing more. You should be more careful in future of associating with such company. I glanced into the crowd where the man had disappeared, suddenly understanding our conversation during the dance a little more. A few hours later, and the crowds begin to disperse. I am more than happy to return home and to the comfort of bed, my body and mind fatigued from the evening. The next morning I find Arabella in the drawing room after breakfast, eagerly tearing open a pile of letters. So many letters already? I give a small laugh as I take the seat opposite her. She glances up, a serious expression on her features. This is no laughing matter, Sophia. These are invites. It is today we make our most important decision of the season. And what would that be? Whose company we will be spending the season with, of course. It would be impossible to split our time between everyone in town, so we must decide who will receive our interests. I see. She gives a bright smile and leans close to me, placing her hands on my knees. Seeing as it is your first year back, why do you not choose the engagement? Are you certain? I would have it no other way. She leans back and spreads out 2 letters in front of me. Each invite is elegantly written and well presented. Arabella points to the first one. This is an invite to an afternoon tea later today, though I believe Lord Stanton will be in attendance at this one, so maybe it would be wise to avoid it. The worry on her face disappears in favour of a grin as she gestures to the next letter. This is a letter to a dinner party this evening, hosted by Lady Huntington in honour of the military being in town. Colonel Foxley will be there, along with that captain friend of his. Captain Blake? Yes, him. She touches a final invite. This is the part where I have added Amesbury in this version, but it's not in the version that's currently available for download. This is to a picnic hosted by the Kitterings. She pouts a little in thought. They're not the most known family, though they do always bring the most delightful spread of food, so the event is quite popular. A few families always attend, the Fishers, the Sterlings, the Amesburys if they're in town. With Mr. Amesbury? She gives a nod. Yes, I believe it is only the son in town this year, is it not? She waves away the thought in dismissal before I can respond, before spreading the letters out further on the table. So, which one would you like to attend? And we shall leave it there for today. Like I said, I will be doing Lord Stanton first. So I hope you enjoyed this and the few sort of insights I gave. I will be doing more of that as we get deeper into the roots, where I can focus on specific characters and specific story points. But if there are things you would like to know, I will hopefully be putting a link to my Tumblr in the box below, so you can get onto Tumblr and message me there, or if you'd rather just leave it in the comments, that's fine. I will try and answer as many questions as possible. So I hope you enjoyed this, and that I didn't read too fast for you, and I shall see you next time. Bye bye!